Good morning. My apologies for any technical issues. My name is Julie Skibiris, and welcome to another edition of Your Life, Your Voice. Today we have a pre-recorded interview, and during this interview, we'll be taking live questions. And at the end of the interview, I'll come back and end the session. So today we have a pre-recorded session. I'll just get that up. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Your Life, Your Voice. And today we have guest speaker Athena, who is a community connector for the Shepparton region. And she works with Ethnic Community Council of Victoria and is a passionate advocate in the Shepparton region. Welcome, Athena.
Thank you, Julie, for having me.
And my co-host today will be Nemo, who is also a community connector for ECCB. Welcome, Nemo.
Thank you so much, Julie, for having me, and welcome, Athena.
Thank you, Nemo.
So before we start, how about we do another bit of country? Anyway, so D&D and Your Life, Your Voice project would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognise their continuing contribution to land, water and community. I pay respects to also our brothers and sisters of the Indigenous people in our community who are disabled, and I call for better health outcomes for people with disabilities who are of Indigenous nature, because the actual mortality rate of these people in comparison to the Western community is about 10 years less. So we'd like to call for better outcomes for these people who are traditional owners of our lands. So Athena, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for Your Life, Your Voice.
So, anytime, Julie.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your life?
Okay, for those that don't know me, my name is Athena. I come from a Greek background and was born with cerebral palsy. I am in a wheelchair. The wheelchair I use for getting around an everyday life, but I have never used my wheelchair to stop me from achieving. I attended mainstream school, mainstream high school. When I finished that, I had the opportunity to go on to TAFE and do a Certificate 2 and a Certificate 3 in office administration. After that, my coordinator of that course said to me, how about we get you into doing some volunteer work one day a week? I agreed to it and was offered some volunteer work at our local advocacy agency doing just admin tasks. When I first joined that office, I had no idea of what advocacy was. But as I went on, I got a better understanding of what advocacy was. So I thought, okay, I need to go on and do further study. I then went on and completed my certificate 4 in advocacy. My certificate 4 in disability, followed by my certificate 4 in advocacy, where I then was offered a Cert 4 advocacy traineeship with the local advocacy agency. Did that, and then also at the time I was studying the diploma of community services, where I was faced with a number of barriers because my coordinators of that course did not understand my disabilities. When I was interviewed 6 times to get into the course. And that was because the coordinators and the panel didn't think I could do the course because of my disability. They saw my disability, not my ability. So to me, that gave me the strength to continue to fight to achieve what I want. I did that, completed that with great difficulty and things at take, because often I couldn't get to class because the elevator would break down. So class was upstairs, I was stuck downstairs. Often the teacher in the class would tell me to go and sit in a different spot so I wouldn't be in the way. So I was very much challenged while I was doing this course, but my persistence paid off. And then after doing the diploma of welfare, I went on and I did the self-advocacy traineeship, where I was offered to do self-advocacy data analysis. I did that for about 2 years, where I would collate, advocates' workload reports for the CEO. After that, I was also offered the job of being a self-advocate and running our local self-advocacy advocacy group, which I got a lot of empowerment from, because the stories that I shared with my clients and the group participants, I hope will inspire them to achieve their goals. Now, self-advocacy is to teach a person how to speak up for themselves. I had to do that all by myself. I had basically no family support growing up. I did it all myself. I do tend to refer to friends and mentors when I need advice or support, and people that I really trust. I've got a old school teacher that I really trust, and I must say his number must be on speed dial, because I use it enough to get his advice. So, what I'd like to tell the listeners today is that, if there's someone you trust, ask them for their advice and their direction of what they think on an issue, or if you've got a problem. There's nothing wrong by saying to someone, I'm having a bad day, can I have a little bit of support today?
Yeah, look, sometimes we go off script depending on what comes up in the conversation.
Yes.
So picking up on some of the things that you have said. Your sort of experience really was a building block. So you did your education, you found some barriers, there's a lot worked about, and I appreciate how challenging that would have been.
And look, don't get me wrong, Julie, there were days that I've had days where it's like, no, I want to give up. But I've had that support networks of friends and mentors where they're going, okay, today's a bad day. You're allowed to have, your cry, your scream, whatever you need to do, but tomorrow you start again.
Yes. So, resilience is something I found in this sector. People working in the sector with disabilities, resilience and bouncing back from bad days is a really important trait to have.
Yes.
And it just makes you, it makes you more appreciative when you get through that day and you start a new day. And it's a new day, yes. So anything can happen. You've had a bit of a rest, you had a bit of a tantrum, maybe you actually got a bit of support from mentors or friends. So that's fine, and and everyone has bad days. So it's not actually reserved for people with disabilities or health issues. Well, I keep on saying this theme, in other programs. For all of the same race, and so we all have all these emotions. And, we have our good days, we have our bad days, and it's responding to those and how we bounce back that's really important in life. When we look back, that's like what defines us as whether we're going to be, whether we're going to bounce back or whether we're like, don't bounce back. So, and many of the people I speak to have these stories of just, having awful, it could be days, it could be longer, and that they bounce back because they have that resilience and they want to do something in their lives. And for the people that see them as role models. So another thing that I was thinking of, Athena, for your introduction, is people ask me, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you get a job? And so with your introduction, it all starts from building networks.
It does, yes. And look, getting a job for me has been difficult. I've been getting more interviews than jobs because you go to an interview and they look at your chair and then the interview just sort of freezes. They'll give you the interview but then bring you back a week later and go, well, sorry, but someone's bet you at the post or had better qualifications than what you did. And look, to be honest, before I got the job at SCCB, I almost reached breaking point with jobs because I had applied for about 5 or 6 jobs and I was knocked back within a week of all those jobs. So I was knocked back after knocked back to the point where I was saying to my mentor, I can't do this anymore. And, the person that he is, kept talking to me over, the phone, giving me encouragement, giving me support. And I remember him saying to me when I got the ECCB job interview, you need to change your frame of mind because if you go into the interview the way that your head is at the moment, you won't get the interview because that will reflect on the interview and you won't get the job, and the job is so suitable for you that if you wreck it you won't get it, but this job is really suitable for you. So, to be honest, I didn't speak to the guy for a day, but then I messaged him saying thank you for that piece of advice. And, for me, that was just, that conversation and that text message was, okay, Athena, you've been knocked back, but you've had an opportunity to apply for another job. You need to do this job properly because this job is for you. And, luckily, I was lucky enough and to be successful to be the ECCB advocate for Shepparton. Unfortunately, I did that job in COVID restrictions. So, although I achieved all my objectives, I feel that if I did face-to-face advocacy, the advocacy would have been done a lot better and more effective, but I could only go with what I had at the time. But that self-advocacy job has now led me into the NDIS Multicultural Connector job. So, I'm grateful because one job's led me into another.
Yes, so I'll just pick up on some of the things you talked about. So frame of mind is important. Also, are you part of any committee or management?
No, I'm not.
Are you part of the Diversity Disability Committee of Management?
I'm part of the Access and Inclusion Committee up here in Shepparton, but that's about it.
Okay, so the job that led you to the committee connectors position that you have at the moment, were you doing an advocacy position in Shepparton? And how did you get that role?
That role, well, I attended one of the feasts last year, and I was just encouraged by ECCB staff, Hannah and Yusuf, to apply. Applied and got it. I must say, I love working with the ECCB team. I love bouncing ideas off Yusuf. If I ever feel I've got issues, I can talk to my team. So I feel, although I'm in Shepparton, I feel very, very supported with my team. And although I have not met half of my team, I've only met them on Zoom, I still feel very, very supported and encouraged by my team to try my best.
Yeah, so I think it's important to recognise how challenging COVID's been for people with disabilities.
Oh, very much so. Sorry to cut you off. Very much so, because I had fortnightly activities that I used to do socially, and those fortnightly activities stopped for 6 months. So if I didn't have my work, I would have been so isolated and so depressed. I don't know how I would have coped. The only reason I coped was because I had my work.
So well done to you all, those who have worked through the COVID crisis. There are many people that I work with in the disability sector that have gone through COVID, the working environment. We've had to modify our practices to go via Zoom, and part of the self-advocacy phase that Athena spoke about, they were going live at one stage, so it was a 3-hour event. Our actual funding body and Diversity and Disability, who partnered with Ethnic Community Council of Victoria, we had to restructure everything to go to through Zoom.
And that on its own was very, very challenging, but credit to the 3 self-advocates that work for ECCB, we managed to get them all together successfully, I believe, Julie.
Yes, so the whole project team worked really hard. So, it was a successful event on Zoom. From that, there was also a position that was connected to the self-advocacy face, and from that position, I believe we hired Nemo, our co-presenter. Is that right, Nemo?
Okay. That's right. So I was covering the northern region, and it was like Athena mentioned. We managed to deliver considering the difficulties that COVID brought on board. But all in all, I loved doing that role. Advocacy is where my passion is at, for a number of reasons, and you know that, Julie. But yeah, I've got a question for Athena. Athena, thank you so much for sharing your personal journey with us. That was very precious, and also it was very insightful as well. But my question is, do you think the education facility that you were attending, do you think they learned anything from your experience?
I believe some people did, but I think we as self-advocates need to educate the community more, such as, what it is like to have a disability, what changes we need. For me personally, there's challenges every day. So I need to educate people what it's like for me to have a disability, because the community doesn't quite understand what it's like for me.
That was a wonderful question, Nemo. Thanks for that. I'll just have a look at the list of questions. If we have a crossover, I apologise. I think we really pretty much covered why the work is important for people with a disability. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Athena?
I think that it's important because I, have a disability myself, therefore I can, state to other people what it's like to have a disability. And people might feel comfortable coming to me because I've got a disability. So I think I'll leave that one there, Jules.
Okay, so what changes have you seen in the disability sector that has made a huge difference?
What changes have I seen? Well, that's kind of a difficult question because, change has got to be implemented first, and sometimes change takes a long time to implement. Now, accessibility has been a big one, because accessibility, if there's a building and it's done before a certain before a certain year, it doesn't need to have a ramp out the front. So therefore, people with disabilities can't go there. But if it's after a certain date and year, well, it needs to be built with a ramp and be made accessible for people with disabilities.
So are you talking about the building code?
I am talking about the building code, yes.
So that's really important for people of policy and people in government to understand that I've been reading stuff, and I do research for D&D. So part of my research was sort of like models in disability, and there's another standard that's been like people are trying to advocate for. I forget the exact name, but I think it's along the lines of universal access. So
access plan? Yes.
So there's actually a push and do you agree, Athena, that to change policy, it sometimes starts off with an idea, and the ideas have to come from the people who are experiencing the issues that governments are trying to fix?
Yes. To give you one example, I booked a restaurant probably 6 weeks ago, and booked it without checking, does it have disabled toilets? So I thought, okay, haven't been there, we'll go and try this one. Normally, I would ask what's the disability access like. Anyway, the friend that we were going with rings me the week before and says, "Oh, I hear that this particular venue hasn't got a disabled toilet. Do you know if they're telling me the truth or not?" Anyway, I ring them up. They didn't have a disabled toilet. So I cancelled my booking and went elsewhere because I felt that, can't go there. It was a dinner venue, so I was planning to have a few drinks. What if I need to go to the toilet? Where am I going to go? So, go on.
So up to you, sorry.
I was just going to say access for me is really big. Some places might say you can sit outside, but what happens if it's a cold day?
Yeah.
And it's wet. I can't sit outside.
So, look, I know that COVID-19 has been quite difficult for a lot of people. And but sometimes, there's a silver lining in that now people who are able-bodied may have a better understanding of isolation, which is a huge issue for people with disabilities. So,
Look, Julie, can I just say that people, and I'll speak for myself, but I've heard it from others as well, people with disabilities were isolated before COVID anyway. And I'll use my own personal experiences to explain why I've said that. Because a lot of people with disabilities don't have the options to go out socially, don't have the options to go down the street. Now, I'm the kind of person that if I want to go down the street or if I want to go out for a meal as I am on the weekend, I will book a carer and I will say to a carer, come and take me, come and we'll do this, come and we'll do this. But there are so many people out there that don't have that luxury and that ability to be able to go, okay, Mum, Dad, I want to go out, so I'm booking a carer. I mean, one of my biggest dreams was to go to Phillip Island. Now, that was something that I wanted to do with my family, but my family thought it was too hard. So I just decided last year that, okay, I'm getting a few friends together and a carer, and we're going on a 3-day holiday to Phillip Island. Now, I was lucky that my NDIS package allows me to do that. And, thank you for my NDIS package, because my NDIS package has increased my social independence and given me the option to do things that I would never have the opportunity to do with my parents. But I asked the question, and this is where my role as a connector hopefully will increase someone's independence to speak up for what they want, because, to me, there are so many people out there that can't say, I want to do this, so therefore they're isolated.
Yeah, that's a great point, Athena. I think what you're describing is people from a cold background, and for people out there, the YouTubers, cold just means people from an ethnic background. They could be born in Australia, but their family are from overseas, and our families tend to be a little bit restrictive. Maybe they don't know the possibilities.
Could I just give you a personal example there, Julie? I, as I said earlier, come from a Greek background. Now, for me, that's been challenging on its own, because I haven't been allowed to go out without any adult supervision. My parents want to know where I'm going, who I'm going with, what time I'm going to be home. So that is the cultural thing. They just want to be parents. They want to be protective. I go down the street occasionally by myself, and people that I know see me and they go, "Oh, what are you doing out by yourself?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm allowed to be. You know, it's not that I can't be, but it's that cultural background of, okay, well, our child's got a disability. We should isolate them and not let them do everything they want to do. Only what suits my parents." So,
sorry, go on.
no, I was just going to say I am very, very grateful for my NDIS package because it's given me the opportunity to do things I never thought I could do or would do.
Yeah, that's very true. And we'd like to sort of like emphasise for people watching this down the road to dream big with the NDIS. Like, you know, think of the things you want to do in your next plan and just put it in your plan. And, you know, I think getting independence as a woman from a ethnic background, you know, it's really, there are barriers because you're a woman. There might be barriers for other issues. Maybe you may be in a wheelchair. You may have cerebral palsy or other health issues. But the biggest issue sometimes is that you're a woman. Forget about the intersections that connect that. So, you know, from my personal experience, I was working, you know, doing all these things, yet like you so explained so well, Athena, you know, when I went out, you know, when you going, what time will we be back? I had to leave phone numbers. Mind you, usually it's the same people going out with all the time. Phone numbers, you know, it was just a Spanish Inquisition. And for all those who don't know what that is, it's a really important part of history where people were, you know, questioned, and so it was a bit like genocide of a particular group of people. Anyway, so it's really interesting that women have to experience all these other barriers before they can do or they want to do what they want to do in life. And I'm really passionate about forward planning because some parents don't understand. They're not going to be there forever. So, and
it's not they don't want to understand, but they don't want to face it.
They're not immortal, so they're not going to be around forever. So it's important for people with disabilities to learn, because speaking up for yourself is a skill, and each skill can be learned. And there's practice, and there are places you can go to, communities you can join to help you speak up. Some of the committees are diversity and disability. Some are within Surrey, and there's a big site online where it can tell you all the sub advocacy groups in Victoria and in Australia. The site is called Voices Together. If you do a quick Google search, it'll come up in your Google search. You just have a look around and see what's out there to help you get that voice so you can start to feel confident in speaking up for yourself. So that was a great conversation, Athena. So thanks for that. How about we move on from that? Before we move on from that, Nemo, do you have anything to add to that conversation? Nemo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, Julie, I might have missed a little bit because I was moving from the living room to the bedroom.
Oh, that's okay. Do you have anything to add for that conversation about? We had a conversation about women and the barrier because you're a woman from an ethnic background, and the intersection of disability. And do you have any comments about that? Because Limo is from the African community.
Yeah, definitely. There are additional barriers just because you're a woman. And it's just one of those things that we have in all different cultures, but also mainstream cultures carry the same difficulties for women as well. Or if you look at the gender discrimination between men and women in general, that alone sets you back. So when you add ethnicity and disability and all the other layers that we carry as women of cult background, then obviously the environment you are surviving in becomes more challenging. But it's for me culturally, I had great difficulties when I was getting married or trying to enter the next phase of my life. And it was just surprising to me that people thought you're not capable, you're not like an equal woman just because you have a disability, and that was just very weird because I didn't understand it, because I personally have a different standard for myself. But yeah, so I guess not living up to other people's expectation is very important as a person with a disability, irrespective of the background you're from. You as a human being can make your own standards. So what fits you, what you deserve, and what you like or what you don't like. And exercising that right can actually change your life for the better. So I normally ignore other noises,
Yeah, that's really important, to ignore other noises and to have the confidence within yourself to have a goal and have that focus and to reach a goal. So what I want to pick up from what Limba has said is about the, you mentioned, Nemo, that, sorry about that. You mentioned that the joys of Zoom. You mentioned that Australian-born people and mainstream, who generally access the mainstream systems, and ethnic communities have a pretty similar issue to. With some people, not all, everyone, but some people would have similar issues to women, and that protective type of attitude, and that could be a challenge in itself. For even though you speak the language, you're born in Australia, your parents are Australian, we have to acknowledge that these people also have barriers because for the fact they're a woman. So that's an interesting point to pick up on. So thanks, Levo, for mentioning that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Julia. And I say that because my previous role, I worked in the I worked for a organization that looks after the needs of multicultural women. And, when we were doing our trainings, the gender discrimination based on employment alone. So when you look at the pay gap between men and women, that alone for me was, a shock. It's like you could do the same position and get, 60 cents less just because you're a woman.
Yes, and there's been like that. This is acknowledged by a lot of people in industry. The actual gaps are getting smaller, but then it depends on the industry you're in. So if you're in a female dominated industry, like say personal care work or welfare work or that sort of line of work, generally speaking, it's the pay rates are lower, and even teaching, and teaching is a very important thing, and so yes, even when I was in the public service, there was attitudes of because you're a woman, not from management but from other people, because you're a woman, you don't deserve a promotion because I'm a man and I've got a family. I'm thinking this guy was in the Navy, he was in the armed services. It was just ridiculous. And it's based on skills and knowledge more, and it's sort of like been a move. I'm not sure how far, because previously public service usually promoted based on years of service, and years of service is one thing, but knowing your job is another. So yeah, it's really a strange. I found it really difficult to do with. Anyway, but things are moving and getting better in industry and recognising that people, men or women, are promoted or are promoted according to skills and knowledge rather than a gender or disability. So, and change is really slow, but I've seen change happen.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's due to advocacy as well. A lot of service providers have been advocating for years, women where they are today. And though we still have a long way to go and the gender gap is a lot less than what I mentioned before, I think it's sitting under, I don't know the exact number, probably 14% or less than men. But yeah, so it is actually improving, but we still have a long way to go, Julie. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for your comments, Nima. Anyway, so we'll move on. So, I think what would you like life to look like for people with disabilities? If you had a crystal ball and a big wish list in 20 years' time.
More opportunities both in education and work, because I really like to encourage people to look at a person's ability, not a disability.
Yes, so to achieve this dream, what do you think needs to happen better for people with disabilities?
Raise awareness, encourage people to speak up, encourage people to say what they want, encourage people for change.
So do you think the NGIS is a good platform to help people build their resilience and courage in asking and in building that confidence that people need to move on with life?
Look, the NDIS is good, but I think the NDIS uses a lot of jargon where some people with disabilities may not understand it. Therefore, that if you don't understand the language and what need to be done within your plan, you're not going to say, this is what I want. You're not going to go back for a second meeting.
That's a good point. So we have some representatives that I know who are on the NGIS NGIA board. So I believe that they have taken up this issue, and so we'll have to sort of like keep an eye on that and advocate for easy English resources for people with disabilities, so they can go in and they can have a look around and and build their resilience and courage to basically advocate for themselves. That this is a process. So when you start any skill, it's a process, but it all starts with you. So and having that voice and asking your advocates around you, whether they're informal like family or formal like people from who are paid as support workers, or your mentors or family or friends that have seen, have witnessed things and that can make recommendations. Like Athena talked about earlier on, having mentors and relationships that helped her in her life to move on and to challenge the TAFE sectors she was in, challenge TAFE, challenge your family, in educating your family in things that you possibly can do, things that you can build your skills upon, and giving you that freedom to be the person you want to be. That's what the NDIS is all about.
Yes.
So that's, and we've had strong interviews with Athena, with other people in the sector. So if you haven't done so already, these DD, your life, your voice is on demand. So if you Google on YouTube your life, your voice, have a look at our on demand sessions. I think this is session 9, so we have one more session before the end of the year. And these people, we do this channel to inspire people with disabilities to see what is possible out there, to inspire, to challenge, and to educate. So we hope that we get feedback from people that are listening to the channel on demand, and in the future when we go live, to have that input and comments going live, and give us ideas of what we can do, what you'd like to see that can improve your life. So thank you, ladies, for that conversation. So Athena, I think we've got time for a couple more questions. Let's see. So what are your personal hopes and dreams for the future, Athena?
My personal hopes and dreams for the future? Well, to keep increasing my independence, to hopefully one day live independently and have my own home, and to be in a job helping other people with disabilities. Now, like me, Mo said earlier, she's passionate about self-advocacy, so am I. So to continue working in the disability field, helping other people with disabilities.
That's a great goal. So I suppose that's the end of our questions. We have a few formal things we have to do, Athena.
Could I just add there, Julie, that one of my favourite songs is Miley Cyrus's The Climb. Now, for me, that song tells me that there's a mountain. You got to climb up the mountain, but it's not so much if you fall halfway and you got to go back up again. It's what you learn along the way within your journey. So it doesn't matter how long it takes a person to achieve their goals. If they get out the other end, what have they learned? With all the barriers and all the challenges that people face on a daily basis, what have we learned? So, yeah.
That's a great comment, Athena, because it's like when I reflect on my life and things that I've done and the journey I've taken, you don't realise how much you learn by just doing things and taking that gamble, taking that chance in life. And I look back thinking, oh my God, I can't believe. And, along with my advocates in the industry, like Athena, all the advocates in D&D, all the connections I make with Sarah and stuff, these are all people that I work with and I aspire to, because they're just great advocates. And through them, I've learned so much from them. So,
Look, I learn from my colleagues on a daily basis. I learn from, other people within the ECCV team. I learn from my mentors. So I continue learning every day.
The point I'd like to make, Athena, is that learning does not have to be like books and safe. You can, all your experience from until today, they're all learning curves. And so some people may have big barriers to education, and that's fine, because you can learn from experience, from your experience, other people's experience. So, and that's also a great way to understand life and to get educated. and you're passionate about.
True.
So that's a really important point I'd like to stress. For people out there who feel that the barriers of education, formal education, are just too big for them to deal with. So there are other forms of informal education. I run with Saru, a voice at the table, so that people can work upon and have that knowledge in a different format. So we talk about accessibility a lot in the sector. So it's accessibility to different learning styles.
Yeah, that's true.
And if I might add one more point, Julie, is that the way Athena expresses herself shows a lot of self-determination and a lot of self-belief, as well as a lot of self-advocacy, and that's what it takes normally to make it. Because the barriers are there, more than I can express within this conversation. But that drive, the drive that Athena has, is what you need to get to where she is today. Because society will not do that for you. Right? You need to do it yourself, and this is the point that I always say to people with disability, is that you need to do this for yourself. If you have the capacity, do it for yourself, because it will make a difference in your life. And if you don't have 6 services that can do it on your behalf, like Athena said, seek support. It's not a shame to ask for support. We all need support. People without disability seek support for various different reasons in their life. So thank you so much, Athena. You're a champion, mate.
You are a champion. So,
Thank you.
I was listening to the TV, and I listened to the morning show, and then do you know the swim coach Laurie Lawrence? He's the Australian swim coach. Swimming is a very, really challenging sport. And this guy trains Olympic champions. He's playing with success. Let me get this right. I really like this quote. It's hard work and talent, but hard work always surpasses talent. But when you have hard-working talent together, that's what makes success. So I really love that quote, and I didn't even write it down, but I thought about it, and it's very true. And Athena and all the people, most of the people I work with, that's what they have. We have hardworking talent, and with hardworking talent, miracles are achieved, and good dreams, all good dreams can be achieved. So thank you, ladies, for a very enlightening chat. I just have some formal things I have to do, Athena. You can stay with us if you like, and I just have a few formal things, and that'll be the end of our interview. So thank you, Athena, from Community Connector from ECCV. Thank you very much.
No worries, anytime, Julie.
Thank you, Athena.
So
no worries.
Moving on, I've just got some formal things I have to do. Let's have a look. I might get this right one though. So we have. Okay, so I'd like to also mention that that people with disabilities are entitled to free masks. And if you need free masks, you can contact your service provider, or you can actually contact DHHS. And if you Google DHHS, in your on Google, it'll come up reusable face masks for vulnerable Victorians. And even if you need to look up restrictions at the current moment, as people know, they change quite quickly. So and they are readily available on Google also. So Google is a great way to get information. And also, your service providers, your support coordinator can assist you if you have issues, which a lot of people do. Yeah, so we're up to the acknowledgements for the funding source. So let's have a look. So DD, Your Life, Your Voice, would like to now acknowledge the Local Resource Centre Northwest Management for their support they give. They give to DD, Your Life, Your Voice project. This YouTube project is funded by the Victorian DHHS and Moreland City Council. And DD would like to thank them for providing support for this progressive thinking out of the box project, especially in these times living through the pandemic. COVID-19 has been difficult for people with disabilities living in isolation, and this channel is for them too. And we've been giving advice on how to support yourself in COVID-19 lockdown. We sincerely hope that this information has been useful and effective for you. We'd like to thank our guest speaker for today, and please feel free to email us on D&D Your Life, Your Voice at gmail.com. So this is our second last interview for today. We have another session coming on the 23rd of December, so just before Christmas. And we'd like to encourage people to leave comments. If you like to listen to us online, we go online at the moment every fortnight. And if you like to interact with us while online, that will be highly encouraged. Or alternatively, you can leave your comments on demand at D&D Your Life, Your Voice. I'd like to thank my co-presenter for today, Nemo. Thank you very much, Nemo. And congratulations on all your work with ECCB. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more of you pretty soon. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the 23rd of December.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Bye, everyone. We're back live. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you for our last session on the 23rd of December. Yes, so have a great